She was born into a house where walls listened more than people and where dreams learned to whisper before they ever learned to fly. She grew up watching her mother count coins like prayers and her father count silences like debts. She learned early that hunger is not only of the stomach but of dignity, of rest, of being seen. She wore the same dress through changing seasons and told herself it was enough because wanting more felt like a crime when survival already cost so much. Every morning she woke before the sun, not because she wanted to but because poverty does not let you sleep in. It pulls you by the shoulders and reminds you that if you stop moving the world will move on without you. She washed her face with cold water and looked into eyes that had learned to hide fear behind strength. She promised herself again that today she would not break even if the world tried. She walked streets that did not notice her footsteps, carrying hopes heavier than her hands, carrying responsibilities that were never meant for someone. So young people passed her without looking because poor women are often invisible unless they are needed for labor or blame. She learned to keep her head down, not out of shame but out of protection, because the world is kinder to women who do not ask for space. She worked jobs that never loved her back, jobs that took her hours and gave her exhaustion instead of appreciation, yet she showed up every day because quitting was not an option when mouths waited at home and rent did not care about tired bones. She smiled at strangers because kindness cost nothing, even when she herself had nothing left. At night, when the city softened and noise finally slept, she sat alone with her thoughts, those thoughts that never rested. They reminded her of dreams. She once had dreams that felt too expensive. Now she wanted to study, to travel, to rest without guilt, but reality kept tapping her shoulder, saying maybe later, maybe never. Still she kept those dreams alive like secret letters hidden in her chest. She cried quietly because loud pain attracts judgment, and she could not afford that either. Her tears fell into pillows that never told anyone. Her weakness became her discipline, her silence became her shield. She learned to breathe through disappointment and to swallow words that deserve to be spoken, because survival often asks women to choose endurance over expression. They told her be patient, as if patience could pay bills. They told her be grateful, as if gratitude could replace opportunity. They told her be strong without ever offering support. Strength was expected from her like a duty, not admired like a victory. She nodded, because arguing requires energy, and she was already spending hers on staying alive. She watched other women live lives she only saw in passing, laughter without fear, choices without consequences, rest without explanation, and sometimes jealousy knocked on her heart, but she never let it stay too long because comparison is a luxury for those who have time. She focused instead on putting one foot in front of the other, believing that movement itself was hope. There were days she wanted to disappear, days when carrying everything alone felt heavier than the idea of not existing at all, but something inside her refused to give up, not because life was beautiful, but because she believed her existence mattered even if no one else confirmed it. She stayed because leaving would mean letting the world win. She learned that being poor does not mean being weak, it means being resourceful, it means finding light in places others overlook, it means building joy from scraps and strength from struggle. She learned to celebrate small victories, like a full meal, like a paid bill, like a night without worry. These moments became her milestones. Her hands grew rough from work, but they also grew capable. They held children, wiped tears, cooked meals, and still found time to hold her own heart together. Her body ached, but it carried generations of resilience. She stood tall not because she was fearless, but because fear never stopped her from moving. She was judged for her clothes, her accent, her silence. People mistook her humility for ignorance, her kindness for permission, yet she never let bitterness change her core because she knew the world already had enough cruelty. She chose softness, not because she was naive but because it was her rebellion. In moments of stillness, she imagined a future where she could breathe, where she could sit without calculating cost, where rest was not earned through pain. She imagined a life where her worth was not measured by how much she endured. These visions kept her alive on days when reality felt too heavy. She was not unbroken because life spared her, she was unbroken because she learned how to bend without shattering. She learned that strength is not loud, it does not announce itself, it shows up quietly every day in women who keep going even when no one is watching. She carried scars no one could see, scars made of missed opportunities and swallowed dreams, but she also carried wisdom, the kind that only comes from surviving storms without shelter. She understood people deeply because she had been hurt deeply. She loved carefully because love had cost her before. She became a safe place for others even when she herself had no place to rest. People leaned on her strength without realizing where it came from. She listened, she comforted, she gave because giving was the one thing poverty could not take from her. One day she realized that her story mattered, that surviving was not small, that existing in a world designed to exhaust her was an act of courage. She realized she did not need permission to value herself, she did not need applause to know her worth. She began to stand a little taller, not in defiance, but in acceptance. She accepted that her journey was hard, and that it had shaped her into someone unbreakable. She stopped apologizing for her circumstances, and started honoring her resilience. She is still poor by the world's definition, still counting coins, still working too hard, still dreaming quietly, but inside her lives a woman who knows her strength, a woman who has walked through fire and emerged carrying light. She is an unbroken woman, not because she never fell, but because she always stood back up, not because she was protected, but because she protected herself, not because life was kind, but because she chose to keep her heart open in a world that tried to close it. And somewhere in the quiet of her persistence the world slowly changes, because women like her exist, because women like her refuse to disappear, because unbroken women are not born in comfort, they are born in survival, and they rise in silence.